Hey, let's look at the Rust annual blog survey. I did want to see this, okay? I want to see this, okay? It's February 19th, the Rust team's annual blog survey. All right. The Rust teams is excited to share the results of the 2023 survey of the Rust programming language conducted between December 18th and January 15th. As in the previous years, the 2023 state of Rust was focused on gathering insights and feedback from Rust users and all those who are interested in the future of Rust and more generally. The 8th edition of the survey surfaced new insights and learning opportunities straight from the global Rust language community, which we'll summarize below. In addition, this blog post this year, we have also prepared a report containing charts with aggregate results of all questions in the survey. Based on the feedback from recent years, we also tried to provide a more comprehensive and interactive charts in the summary blog posts. Let us know what you think. All right, exciting. Our sincerest thanks to everyone, every community member who took the time to express their opinions and experiences with Rust over the last year. Your participation will help us make Rust better. Okay, here we go. Participants. Survey. Okay, it's slightly better. Or slightly less better? A shockingly small amount of growth. The views confuse me, though. Can we agree that the views are confusing? You had less people view it, but more people try it out. So you had 50% even try. This one had a much higher than 50% try. It had a 75% try. Less people cared? Interesting. As shown in above, 2023, we have achieved 37% fewer survey views. Oh, views. Oh, I see. I'm stupid. Okay. People are just viewing the surveys less. Okay. But we saw a slight uptick in starts and completions. There are many reasons why this could have been the case, but it's possible that because we released 2022 analysis blog so late last year, the survey was fresh in many Rustaceans' mind. This might have prompted fewer people to feel the need to open the most recent survey. Therefore, we find it doubly impressive that there is more starts and completions in 2023, despite the lower overall view count. Okay, fair. The Karen ratio increased significantly. Is that the problem? All right, let's see. This year, we have relied on automated translations of the survey, and we have asked volunteers to review them. We thank the hardworking volunteers who reviewed these automated survey translations, ultimately allowing us to offer the survey in 7 languages: English, Simplified Chinese, French, German, Japanese, Russian, and Spanish. That is so many languages to offer a survey in. We decided not to publish the survey in languages without translation review volunteers, meaning we could not issue the survey in Portuguese, Ukrainian, traditional Chinese, or Korean. Brazilian's in shambles right now. Brazil is explicitly not mentioned. This is anti-Brazilian technology right now. How does Brazil feel? Brazil now mentioned. Brazil officially hey, we're mentioning them now, okay? We're mentioning Brazil. Can we get a Brazil mentioned? Brazil mentioned. Let's go. Lua. Elixir. We don't forget Brazil. Yeah. We're big Brazil fans around here, okay? We're not weak, okay? Hey, Terso Tech, Prime, Brazil. I will be in Brazil. I will be in Brazil soon. I will see you, and we will crush Brazil. All right, the Rust survey team understands that there are issues with several of these translated versions, and we apologize for any difficulty that has caused. We always are looking for ways to improve going forward and are in the process of discussing improvements to this part of the survey creation process for next year. We saw a 3 pp increase. Wait, what? What does pp stand for? Can somebody help me here? I don't know what a 3 pp increase is, but I'm too much of a child to understand. I think they're talking about wheat. I think this is dick mention. Did we just get a dick mention? Penis, it stands for penis points. Penis points. 3 percentage points increase in respondents taking the surveys in English. 80% in 2003, 77% in 2022. Across all of the languages, we only saw minor variations, all of which are likely due to the offering fewer languages overall this year due to having fewer volunteers. I wonder, it's a lot of effort for something that is not used that much. Rust user respondents were asked which country they lived in. Top 10 countries in order were United States, Germany, China, United Kingdom, France, Canada, Russia, Netherlands, Japan, and Poland. Brazil, not mentioned again. Dang. We were interested in seeing a small reduction in participants taking the survey in the United States in 2023, down 3 pp's from 2022, which is a positive indication of the growing global nature of our community. You can try to find your country in the chart below. Brazil mentioned! Oh man, look at Brazil. We can find it, boys. We found it. Brazil mentioned. Let's go. Brazil. 160 people. You saw it. I saw it. All right. Once again, the majority of respondents being reported being most comfortable communicating on technical topics in English at 92.7%, a slight difference from 93 in 2022. Again, Chinese was the second highest choice for preferred language for technical communication at 6.1%. A classic Rust loving China. They love the China. All right, here we go. A lot of good ideas, they think. They love to be able to really, be in control of the product. Anyways, we also asked whether respondents consider themselves members of a marginalized community. Of those answers, 76% selected no, 14% selected yes, and 10% preferred not to say. We have asked the group selected yes, which groups they specifically identify being a member of. The majority of those consider themselves a member of an underrepresented group or marginalized group in technologies identified as lesbian, gay, bisexual, or otherwise non-heterosexual. The second most selected option was neurodivergent at 41%. Like average Twitter user. Followed by trans 31.4%. Going forward, it will be important for us to track these figures over time to learn how our community changes to identify the gaps we need to fill. Everybody on Twitter is neurodivergent. Like, it's shocking. Ooh, wow. 8% are considered unique due to their religious beliefs. I wonder what that means. Political beliefs they feel different on? That's weird. I wonder how they get all these things. All right, as Rust continues to grow, we must acknowledge the diversity, equity, and inclusion-related gaps that exist in Rust community. Sadly, Rust is not unique in this regard. For instance, only 20% of 2023 respondents to this representation question consider themselves a member of a racial or ethnic minority, and only 26% identify as a woman. Dude, I got 1.5% women viewing the YouTubes, okay? So, okay, this seems like flexing to me. I don't know if you know this. This feels like flexing. We would like to see more equitable figures in these categories and other categories. 26% seems very, very high. Just like in general, that seems like a very high number for tech. In 2023, the Rust Foundation formed a diversity, equity, inclusion subcommittee on its board of directors whose members are aware of these results and are actively discussing ways the foundation might be able to better support underrepresented groups in Rust and help make our ecosystem more globally inclusive. They're going to walk around. I mean, I'm confused at how, just in general, when it comes to a programming language, what does this mean? Right? Like, what are you... How do you do that as a programming language? Marketing? Really? So if you saw a sign, like anybody that starts using Rust, the Rust community is is the one group that is most likely to prevent Rust from being mass adopted in the long run. The one thing holding back Rust is Rust itself. It's weird because I don't really understand how that works at a language level, because you have to convince somebody to like a language. And convincing somebody to like a language means you really have to fall into like dork who likes memory management. It's too complicated to do basic stuff. Yeah. I don't know. It's confusing how one would even try to, if that was my strategy, if my goal was to do that, I wouldn't even be sure how to do it. One of the central goals of the Rust Foundation Board Subcommittee is to analyze information about our community to find what gaps exist. So the information is a helpful place to start. This topic deserves much more depth than it is possible here, but readers can expect more on this subject later. Okay, Rust usage. In 2023, we saw a slight jump in the number of respondents that self-identify as Rust users. That's such a strange-ass way to say it. Can you just say people who use Rust? Like, what the hell does it mean to self-identified Rust users? What does that even mean? What does that mean? What are you saying? No, I have never used Rust before. How are you taking the Rust survey never using Rust before? There's more people. Wait, is red? I can't even look at this. Is red supposed to be, okay. 2023 is blue. Still 3.3%. 397 people are like, nah, I'm not using Rust, but I would like to answer a survey about it. No, I don't currently use Rust, but I have in the past. Okay, still, wow. It's wild. Of those who used Rust in 2023, 49% so did on daily basis or near daily basis, a small increase of 2 PPs from the... Why am I such a child? I'm a child. That's weird. Okay, this is actually super confusing thing. Daily or nearly so increased Weekly or nearly so went down. All the other categories went down, but daily went up. I guess that's not too weird, right? People are just using it more. Or are you indexing into people who are using Rust daily to fill out your survey? I can't tell. 31% of the people who did not identify as Rust users cited, again, the strangest way, cited the perception of difficulty as the primary reason for not having used it, with 67% reporting that they simply haven't had the chance to prioritize learning Rust yet, which is once again the most common reason. I haven't got around to it. More people. Now that's a really interesting one. This chart, more people just haven't got around to it. It's going up in time, not down in time. Too difficult to learn, or learning will take too much time. I mean, this is real. To learn Rust very effectively, it does take a lot of effort, right? It's one thing to understand the basics of the borrow checker, but to be good at like how you understand it works and everything, it is very difficult. Anyone who tells you otherwise I think they're just making things seem too easy. I prefer to use another language has gone up. Whoa. This one is wild right here. Look at this. Oh, I guess it's not that wild. Look at the count. This is stupid. The count's 2. There's only 2. It's not even that exciting. It's not even real data. Of the former Rust users who participated in the 2023 survey, 46% cited factors outside their control. A decrease of 1 pp, Sag. 31% stopped using Rust due to the preferring another language. Oh, really? Is this like actual people? No, see, this is such small people that this is this even a drop? Can you say it's a decrease of 1%? You can't. Because you got to remember, like, if you look up here at the tippity top, where the hell was it? There, this one. No, I don't currently use Rust. Or this one, I don't even currently use Rust. Or no, I don't currently use Rust. You're looking at the difference of 392 people versus 463 last year. Like, the one person is like huge in the amount of difference. 250 people are representative in statistics. That's just not true. I know people like to say that, and people want that to be true, but it's like literally not true. What we have found, at least doing A/B tests, that unless if you are having not just 250, unless if you're having millions upon millions of people, you cannot detect real behavioral difference. It's taught that way. It doesn't mean it's real. It's stupid. Like, to understand people, you have to have an incredible amount of statistics because you'll see things that just don't exist. Like, any major test at Netflix we're talking like tens of millions of people are going into it. Right? Some heavy claims. Have you seen statistics? Have you been surprised recently at statistics saying that this is impossible, then it turns out that it's possible when people say one thing and then it turns out their life is not representative of what they say? I mean, if you have 250 people and some people not quite saying exactly how they feel, which happens all the time, or recency biased, or just got excited about something, or something in their life changed, maybe somebody within your life, like, just the idea that is not, it's just wild to think that you can get any sort of information out of 250 people and assume that you can apply that to humankind. Like, that's crazy. That's crazy. And people should feel ashamed for saying 250 people represents the world. Anyways, in terms of operating systems used by Rustaceans, the situation is very similar to the results of 2022, with Linux being the most popular choice of Rust users, okay, followed by Mac OS and Windows. All right? No, but who wants to use Windows? Boo. Ugh. Oh, wow. Almost the same percentage use Mac and Windows. Wait. Which operating systems do you regularly use for Rust development? This adds up to like 100 and some percent. This is like 150%. Who are these people regularly? What is this? These graphs are just, what am I looking at? I can't even make a, I know it's, still, it makes it make no sense. Okay? I'm struggling trying to understand what this means. Who did this? Rust programmers get, like, I mean, I would assume that most people use one operating system a lot and one sometimes. And few people use it, like, equally. I know very few people that use it equally. Like, as a multiple. Usually when someone says, you know, regularly, I guess we define regularly different. I use Mac, Windows 50-50. Interesting. I use Windows, Mac, and Linux equally. Really? Wow. Crazy, you guys. Okay, maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong. Rust programmers target a diverse set of platforms with their Rust programs. Even though the most popular target by far is still Linux machine, we can see a slight uptick in users targeting WebAssembly, Leptos mentioned, embedded mobile platforms, which speaks to the versatility of Rust. So versatile. Okay. Again, this is one of those. Which operating systems or runtimes do you develop Rust software for? We got like 200%. 200%. I still feel like I need to see this thing normalized. I just have a hard time trying to understand like where the emphasis is. But it seems like Linux and Windows. I'm actually surprised that Windows is higher than Mac. Like, to me, that's pretty surprising, especially with this. If Mac OS is 2% bigger, then how is it 15% smaller? Just a little confused about, like, how's this working out? Which operating systems do you use regularly? Well, because one would assume if you use Macintosh regularly, you would also probably have a somewhat reflective amount in regular for what you're developing for. But it's not. Like, that's what's confusing me. What's you're regularly developing Rust for? Developed on versus developed for? Okay. Fine. Maybe I'm old man yelling at clouds here. Just seems a little strange. We cannot, of course, forget our favorite topic of many programmers, which IDE do developer environment use? Visual Studio Code still seems to be the most popular option. Boo! Rust Rover, which was released last year, is gaining traction. Vi, Vim, NeoVim. Based. I know you guys hate this, but I still struggle with the fact that this doesn't add up to 100. Who are these people using multiple programs regularly? I'm struggling here. I'm struggling. Rust at work. We were excited to see, We were excited to see a continued upward year-over-year trend of Rust usage at work. 34% of 2023 survey response use Rust in the majority of their coding at work, an increase of 5 PPs from 2022. Of this group, 39% work for organizations that make non-trivial use of Rust. All right, so yes, okay, interesting, yes. The majority of my coding. Okay, so it's gone up. Okay. I feel like there's selection bias in this one, meaning that people who are trying to use Rust all the time are gravitating for and using Rust more. I really don't think this is an indication that that there's more Rust jobs. And that's the hard part. That's like, what do you read from this? How I read this is like, people who use Rust very well could have gravitated towards using more Rust. Yeah, and also it's 100 people difference here. 100 people difference here, 300 people difference here. More copium. You think this is copium? Which side's doing the copium, I guess, is the real. There's nothing to read from this. The whole survey is nonsense. It feels like it's a super self-selecting sample. Yeah, I'm having a hard time. Like, what do you get out of this? Once again, the top reason employers of our survey respondents invested in Rust was the ability to build relatively correct and bug-free software at 86%. Dude, I love that answer. This is the biggest cope of Rust. Damn, son, I still definitely build bugs in my Rust programs. I don't know if you know this, but son, I still write bugs. Like, yeah, I cannot F up the memory side because I can't write crazy memory lifetime converter thing, but I can most certainly write bugs. I most certainly write bugs for its performance, speed, memory footprint. Okay, and then let's see. It's security and safety priorities are important for us. Okay, see, this makes sense. Like if security and safety were your priorities, then this makes sense. We find it enjoyable and fun to write. Okay, these two seem very reasonable. We need precise control over exactly how our software runs. Okay, that's a fair one. We already know Rust, so it's our default choice. Oh, interesting. I'd assume that would be really, really small. We find it easy to prototype with. Okay, there's some things that can be easy to prototype with, I guess. An increase of 3 people, though. Thanks, Teach, for the raid. I appreciate that. Hey, Teach. Hey, Teach, say hi, Teach. Teach, say hi. TJ, say hi. TJ, say hi. Hi. TJ, say hi. TJ, say hi. TJ, hi. Hey. We are pleased to see an increase in the number of people who reported that Rust helped their company achieve its goals at 79%. An increase from 7 pp from 2022. 77% of response reported their organization is likely to use Rust again in the future. An increase of 3 pp from the year before. Interestingly, we saw a decrease in the number of people who reported that using Rust has been challenging for their organization to use. 34% in 2023 and 39% in 2022. We also saw an increase of respondents reporting that Rust has been worth the cost of adoption. All right, let's see. Okay, so... Okay, slight increase, about 99 people. Oh. Hey, beautiful. Thank you. You look wonderful. Oh, look at that. My wife gave me a little protein shake. You know, something that I'm not thinking about? Oh my goodness. You're totally right. I just realized something that I realize is super stupid about this whole thing. Can we just take a second? Someone just mentioned in chat, and they're 100% correct. Guys, let's go back up to the tippity top here. There's 500 more people who started it. There's 300 people more who completed it. That means that when you go and you look at something like this, one would argue that relatively the percent went down. The counts make no sense. Different people? I know, but the proportion of people going through. I'm having a hard time with the whole proportion of people going through. Stop the count. It's basically useless comparison. Percentage of all respondents. What technology domains is Rust used in your organization? Oh, cool. Server-side backend applications, cloud computing, distributed systems, cloud computing infrastructure, WebAssembly. Wow, a lot of WebAssembly. That one's a bit, the damn lies and statistics. Yep. Dude, I'm having a really hard time reasoning about what's going on. But, I mean, this is cool. I think this is actually a really cool graph. I think comparing it year over year makes no sense, too. Okay, so we can keep on going with this one. You can scroll to the chart to the right to see more domains that note that the database implementation and computer games domain were not offered as close answers in 2022 survey. They were merely submitted as open answers, which explains a large jump. Okay, that's fair. Programming languages and related tools. That makes sense. This should be the fastest growing topic right here. I think this is where Rust really shines in. LSPs, programming languages, stuff like that. This is so much better. This is so much better. Like, I think that's a really great place for Rust. Very great place for us. As challenges, one of the main goals of the State of Rust survey is to shed light on challenges, concerns, priorities of Rust on Rustaceans' mind over the past year. Of those respondents who shared their main worries of the future of Rust, the majority were concerned with Rust becoming too complex. It does change really fast. I think that's Rust's big weakness right now. Is that Rust? Here's a big weakness I have, or a fear I have with Rust. Is that right now, if you were to have anybody come out and say, here's how you accomplish this complicated way of doing something with Rust, right afterwards, somebody else who's also good at Rust would go, no. You would accomplish it this way. And you could probably have a third person come in and say, no. You don't do it that way. You do it this way. And a fourth person can come in and say, no. You can't do it this way. You should actually do it this way. That's one thing I see about Rust is that making educational content is really difficult. because everybody thinks somebody else isn't doing it as good. 5% increase from 2022. 42% of the respondents were concerned about the low-level uses of Rust in tech industry. 32% of respondents in 2023 were concerned about Rust developers and maintainers not being properly supported. Can you ever be supported? What do you think you're going to get out of these things? I mean, typically any of this kind of, anytime you, like, think about the guys who developed Tokyo. I forget his name. You think he's getting anything out of this? The world's most used Rust package. We saw a notable decrease in respondents who were not at all concerned about the future of Rust. 18% in 2023 and 30% in 2022. Okay. My guess is that's probably 2022 was closer to all the Rust trademark issues. That'd be Saturday. Saturday is also. It's a lot of effort. All right, what's your biggest worries about Rust futures? Becomes too complex. I think this is very, very real. Language is changing very, very frequently, continues to change. There's still a lot that has to be done. I think there's a lot of ways to skin the cat in Rust. I think to become really good at Rust and to write really good libraries, it's like you have to use proc macros. Proc macros are really difficult. Like, there's a lot of difficulties in this. 28.4% of this year, was worried about the foundation. Wow, yeah. Not enough usage in the tech industry. Yeah, that will be a real one. Let's see. In terms of the future, features that Rust users want to be implemented, stabilized, or improved. The most desired improvements in the area of traits, trait aliases, associated type defaults, constant execution, generic const expressions, const trait methods, and async. Dude, async can be hard. There's some things with async. They're difficult. All right, people don't care about try blocks. I don't even know honestly, I don't know what try blocks are. Can I be real here? I don't know what a try block is. A try harder? Oh, I mean, I do know what they are, but I don't know what they are in terms of Rust because I don't use try catch. Do they have a try catch? AKA the devil? Yeah, that's what 9. Keton. That's what I'm thinking. Async closures. Yes, dude, this is a real one. I wish there was just a really simple way to understand how to do. I keep playing around. I've played around with it a few times now. I've only spent a few hours, so I guess I need to spend more time. But how to do just simpler streams. Like, I want to be able to just do streams that are simple. And it still feels very complicated. Like, I want to be able to take a WebSocket that's streaming in things to be able to, like, map and reduce and then pass that thing around so I can add in the more things and then at the end be able to, like, pull things out. I find that to be a very hard activity to do still with Rust. Just use Go. That's the problem, is I just use Go. I just end up using Go. All right, improved traits. Yeah, that seems like a big one. This makes sense. These are all really good. Some of them I don't understand. Generators, coroutines, if, while, let chains. Yeah, this is like a huge thing I want. And you can now do it under features or unstable, and it's super useful. This is super, super, super useful. Enum variant types, too stupid to understand that. Allocator trait, better handling, too stupid for that. Stable ABI, laughs and C. Man, I missed you. I missed you too. Why is it super hard in Rust? If you don't understand why it's super hard in Rust, you need to go program Rust. The borrow checker and stuff like that makes it really hard. That's effectively the best way to put it, is that it's not simple. That's it. It's just not simple. It is interesting that 20% of the respondents answered that they wish Rust to slow down on the development of new features, which is likely to go hand in hand with the previous mentioned worry that Rust is becoming too complex. The area of Rust that Rustaceans seem to struggle with the most seem to be asynchronous Rust, traits, and generic system, and also the borrow checker. Did they just literally say Rust? You know, the thing that Rustaceans are really struggling with in Rust is Rust. What is there besides for the borrow checker, generics, traits, and async? What's left? Is there more? Macros. Oh, macros. They are, macros are in fact indeed even more confusing. If you struggle with any of these, then guess what? Right. This one seems interesting. Let's see. Async, traits, borrow checker, macros. Macros are right here. I'm surprised they didn't also add macros right here. So there's pretty much everything. Pretty much everything right here. Okay, let's see. Respondents of the survey want the Rust maintainers to mainly prioritize fixing compiler bugs. I guess I've never used Rust in any sort of complicated way, so I've never ran into a compiler bug. What's the borrow checker do? The borrow checker determines who owns what variable. The borrow checker. Okay, here. Well, here. You don't know what the borrow checker is? Here. We'll make this easy. Okay. Don't look at that. Here. I guess I already have test, RMRF test here. I'll just make this very easy for you. Here you go, test. There you go, personal test, cargo, init. So if I go like this, let a equals vec this, right? And I have a function called foo that takes in a, which is going to be a vec I32, why not? If I go like this, if I go foo a, and then I go print hello world, and just print out a, this causes, oopsies, print ln, there we go. This causes a problem. And why this causes a problem is that this right here owns A. A is a vector. I pass A into foo. A is not borrowed. It is the thing. So I move A into the function. Function foo now owns A. A is not returned from the function. We cannot use it afterwards. So you cannot use moved borrow of A. So if you want to borrow, you'd make it into a reference. And now I have to pass it on. So now it owns, effectively you can imagine that it owns an integer that is the pointer to the vec. It doesn't own the vec itself. Does that make sense? There you go. So that is what, that's like the basics of the borrow checker. For anyone that's wondering, face reveal when? What? Am I not face revealing? Now teach us Go channels. No. So that's like the basics of it. Okay. As a Python user, what the F? It's very, very simple. The thing that makes it really, really nice is that if you use these semantics, it's really, really nice because you will know who owns what and who has permission to mutate variables. It can be very, very nice. Like I'm not really against some of the borrow checker rules. Honestly. Thanks for the hype train again, people. Jeez. As of recent years, respondents noted that compilation times is one of the most important areas that should be improved. However, it is interesting to note that respondents also seem to consider runtime performance to be important or more important than compile times. Really? 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 Thank you. I'll come back and say thank you to that here in just 1 second. Anyways, we are aware that Rust, that the survey contains some confusing questions. We'll try to improve them next year's. I think the big thing is that I would like to. Okay, so here's something I'd love to see, Rust survey. I'd love to see it that your first question is how many of you are returning from last year re-answering this question, and then I'd love to see the change in people's attitudes over time, because I think that would be very, very interesting at least. Second, separating out new versus old. Like there's something very, very interesting about those kind of things because this is just like a hodgepodge of like, I don't even understand how they're coming up with these percentages, maybe some more normalization, maybe ask questions that lead to more answers here because it just feels confusing. You know what I mean? Like when you say, what's the, like, even giving a radial button version of like, what's the worst thing for Rust development? Not what are the things you struggle with? Like, what is the worst one? Because it's just like, what's the worst part about Rust? Where is that? Where did that one go? Hold on. This one. What's like the worst part? You're just like, yeah, so most people find, like a third of the people find everything about Rust hard. Right? Okay, but which one? Half the people find async hard. Right? It just feels like everything just feels so like the information just feels hard to consume. And then the comparison between the year before is just like, this feels like stats cherry picking. You know, like, look at this. You're sitting there like this one. Whoa, it's practically up 5% right here, this one. What happened? Oh, that's a difference of 7 people. Actually, let's undo that. I just read this wrong. It's actually more hilarious than that. Look at this for a second. Look at it for a second. It is a difference of 7 people, but 7 people less Okay, because there was less people who answered this question, which means there was less people who answered, but the proportional percentage of people answering went up. It's like, it doesn't even make any sense. Okay? I can't read that. Like, this is impossible to read. You would think more people using Rust has been worth the cost of adoption. Down absolutely by 7 people. Oh my gosh! There has to be some sort of normalization, right? This is actually the funniest thing I think I've ever seen in my entire lifetime, right here. Using Rust has been worth the cost of adoption. Up 4.5%, down absolutely by 7. This is like this feels like, I mean, honestly, when I see this stuff, this literally feels like startups trying to say why they're still making money. Hey, Thor's dad. Like, that's literally a startup being like, well, actually, if you think about it, we've increased. Oh, dang it. We've actually severely increased our recent, and you're just like, what have you increased? You haven't increased anything. Oh my goodness, hold on. There we go. I want to take a picture of this because this is just like, this has to be the funniest. This has to be the funniest picture of all time. Where'd it go? This is the funniest thing on the internet today. Don't you? It is not, man. Oh, this is hilarious. What are you talking about? Of course this is funny. This is hilarious. What are you talking about? How do you not think that is funny? I think it's hilarious, okay? I'm loving it. You guys don't have to love it. So, conclusion. 7 people use Rust less. All right, hold on. Where is it? All right. Anyways, yeah. I'd love to see this thing just like some sort of like, I should have used 4.4 pp's. I didn't. There should be some sort of like understanding here, because I can't understand, like, nothing here makes sense. This is actually a terrible survey results. Not in like, see, the problem is when you say that, someone's like, I put so much effort into it, he's being mean. It's like, no, first off, again, I've said this before, people don't care about the effort. I understand this was hard to compile, and it took an effort from a lot of people to make something. The problem is trying to read into what the results are is meaningless, okay? It's a meaningless, the data's there. The presentation is just confusing. I can't take anything from it. Gotta try, like, stop having confounding factors in all of this. Jen.